MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey! And immediately, I loved the headline.
Kyle Shanahan's staff inexperienced at the core of Redskins dysfunction. This was the year they drafted RG3, they won the NFC East, and they hosted a playoff game. The following season, I would imagine looking back, RG3 had gotten hurt, but the hype on the team, the offense had kind of changed the game. I'm sure they were picked to make the playoffs again. They ended up going 3-13, and everyone got fired.
Excerpts from the article. Perception of Kyle Shanahan as someone who was empowered and enabled by his father, spending an abundance of time in his father's office, given a wide swath of power, and rubbing many people, players, fellow coaches, and members of football operations the wrong way. Off to a bad start.
Yeah, that one I would say aged pretty poorly, given that all these guys followed Kyle. Sure seems like LaFleur, McDaniels, the crew
Trent
of guys.
Williams.
Yeah, that one. One key thing I think with this, pretty clear. I think the sources: Bruce Allen, Dan Snyder, RG3, and RG3's dad, or agent, or just RG3's camp.
Yeah. This followed Kyle up until after he got the 49er job. This perception said one member of the organization,
Bruce Allen,
in an email. No, it doesn't say it in an email. Kyle is the head coach. It's just that no one knows he is. He gets whatever he wants. He has no relationship at all with RG3. So how could it work?
The thing that aged best about this for Kyle is that RG3 was viewed around the league several years later as a complete clown. And Jay Gruden, who would take over the following year for the Shanahans, despised Robert Griffin and eventually won a power struggle where they could send him packing and made Kirk Cousins the quarterback. So this was, at the time, RG3 had a lot of juice. He had won the Rookie of the Year.
Right.
They tried to paint the Shanahans like they didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and RG3 was a shooting star. And to me, nothing aged poorer than RG3's career.
It wasn't just that RG3 had just won the Rookie of the Year. It's that, we've seen and we saw years later the influence of the owner on drafting a quarterback. But, I think the belief was that the owner wanted Robert Griffin III to be their quarterback. So it goes beyond just his success.
Remember they traded a lot for him to move up to number 2.
For him. He later drafted, what's his name? His son's friend.
Oh, Haskins.
From Ohio State. As a former member of the organization put it, Kyle bitches about everything, and then his father has to fix it. He bitches about the food in the cafeteria. He bitches about the field. He bitches about the equipment. He complains, and then Mike takes care of it. Kyle's a big problem there. He is not well liked, end quote.
That, to me, is a statement that definitely felt like it followed Kyle for a long time. That vibe, to me, was Kyle Shanahan, how I thought about him. And it shows you an organization, when they say something, they leak an article like this, it's perception can come reality, even if it is. Let's look back. This is one of the biggest clown organizations in successful, profitable business in America. Like when you think Dan Snyder and his football team, it's a laughingstock. Yet what they said about Kyle Shanahan, and really, I guess they're kind of making Mike sound better, right? He's fixing his son's problems. I guess it really made this article was strictly about Kyle, and actually makes Mike Mike could handle it, but Kyle couldn't.
Well, it kind of looks like Mike. I think they're kind of making it look like Mike gets pushed around by his kid a little bit, which I'd have a hard time believing. Also, did Kyle complain about the barriers at the FedEx Field Stadium not being strong enough? I would say complaining about the field at FedEx Field, not a bad complaint, right? A lot of people have complained about that field. And is the food not good enough in the cafeteria? Well, is Kyle saying, oh, I don't like the taste? Or is he saying we need to be feeding people better food in this cafeteria? Also a legitimate complaint. If you're trying to elevate a franchise, facilities, equipment, what equipment is he complaining about? The pens, or is he complaining about the weight room? Like, there's a big difference, right? Yeah. Next up, John. This is the NFL. It's not supposed to be a training ground for coaches. Someone who has worked with Shanahan in Washington said, it's ridiculous. Look at the staff. It sucks.
Let's read that
Mike's
again.
best buddy.
Look at his staff. It sucks.
It goes on. Bobby Slowick's son is his second year out of college. He's on the staff. Everyone on the staff is in their first or second year except for Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Jim Haslett, and Raheem Morris. And everyone knows Raheem is there because he's close with Kyle. Those two go way back. By the way, Raheem Morris, noted, respected NFL coach. This staff, it sucks. Now, that's a quote.
Well, because to me, when he says, look at his staff, it sucks, basically talking about the youth of the staff, he is directly talking about Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel, and Sean McVay. Like, to me, he is talking about those four people. So Bruce Allen, which I think it's fair to say is a major source in this article, thought those guys fucking blew. And I would say the part of that picture that has gone viral that led to the finding of this article is that those guys are stars. Sean McVay is a superstar. Kyle Shanahan is viewed as the best offensive coordinator in the National Football League, who's also in charge of the 49ers. John Lynch answers to Kyle. And even LaFleur, who I would say, it's weird, he's like probably the least respected of the three, I think is wildly pretty fucking respected at this point. And Mike McDaniel is like a viral sensation of this little genius to be Kyle's right-hand guy. Bruce Allen thought all four of those guys were idiots. So part of,
the reason that let's talk about why the first photo is coming up this week in the first place.
Because they're all playing, right?
Yes. They're the Final Four, the NFC.
Yeah, I just think, the thing you need to do as a GM or a coach always, right, is evaluate your own team, right? And in football, when there's so much turnover, you get shit on for like letting a guy go that you drafted that doesn't make your 53-man who goes on somewhere else. I would say coaching staffs are the same way. Now, sometimes you just don't have a spot to elevate a guy, but you chose to actively fire all these guys. Now, McVay did survive, and I would wonder if we were talking with Sean, I bet a big connection was, remember, his career started with John Gruden, so he knew the Gruden family. But Kyle, clearly they couldn't wait to get him out of the building. And I would say LaFleur and McDaniel were just Kyle guys because they literally followed him to the next spot.
Kyle's not confident. Who's this? I think this continues. Kyle's not confident, so they set him up with a bunch of yes men rather than have some experienced coaches to push him. It's like Kyle's the Pied Piper, and these kids follow him around. Mike's been a head coach for 20 years. Usually a guy like that has a posse he can bring with him. So he's got Bobby Turner here and Slowick here, and that's it. How does that happen? How does he end up hiring all of his son's buddies? Like Mike is running an ice cream shop, and he's hiring all of Kyle's high school buddies for the summer jobs.
What's funny is, when Belichick was Parcells' right-hand guy for all those years with the Giants, it wasn't Ernie Accorsi. It might have been George Young, whoever their famous GM was at the time in the 80s, viewed Belichick like he wasn't going to be a star coach, like he wasn't meant to be a head coach. I would say, if you're a team president like Bruce Allen was or an owner, you better spend a lot of time with your young assistants because those guys turn in, even back in the history of the league, turn into head coaches. And the Washington football team, because of Mike Shanahan, littered their organization with some young star talent. And they actively talk shit about them all. Think about that. It would be one thing if, hey, listen, we fired him, had a bad year, we just went on. That happens in the NFL, right? 3-13, like just people get fired. It's another thing to basically say these guys were the village idiots. And the only reason they're there is because like Mike gives in to Kyle, and Kyle just hired a bunch of young guys.
I don't buy Mike Shanahan. Yeah, do you buy Mike Shanahan gives in to Kyle, lets Kyle push him around the way this article kind of makes it seem?
I remember being in the NFC East, a big thing was that Mike became like the bad cop. Remember Albert Hainsworth was there when they showed up, and he made him run those gassers, and like Albert quit.
Yeah.
But I do think he gave the offense, and Mike, was hired, he was his offensive genius. He let Kyle just call all the plays. So I do think Kyle had a lot of juice.
But what I'm saying is, to me, Mike Shanahan did that because Mike Shanahan believed that Mike Shanahan was trying to win football games. Mike Shanahan did not want to end his career getting fired by Dan Snyder.
No. It ended his career, right? That ended his career.
Well, Mike's allowed to have happen there with that staff. There's no excuse for. There are guys in that staff who are just not qualified, and it shows up. Have you seen the quarterback develop? I'm going to keep moving here. Quarterbacks coach Matt LaFleur worked with Kyle Shanahan in Houston and only had 2 years experience as an offensive assistant. There's quotes there with the Texans prior to becoming the QB coach. Similarly, Mike McDaniel was a lower level assistant on the Texans staff before coming to Washington. Tight ends coach Sean McVay, only prior NFL experience for joining Washington, came in 2008 as assistant in Tampa. Said one member of the organization, quote, McVay is really the only one of those kids qualified to do what he's doing.
Yeah, to me, Bruce Allen swung and he missed on this bad boy.
At least they didn't badmouth McVay in the article. Several members of the traveling party were perturbed when, following a win at Dallas on Thanksgiving in 2012, Kyle Shanahan and several of his assistants were hollering loudly, crowing, and alluding to Cowboys coach Jason Garrett's job security on the team bus, hooting how they might get him fired while heading to the airport after the win. They were just 5-6 at the time, and according to sources, one member of the staff actually told them to, quote, shut up.
Well, I could see young guys doing some dumb shit.
Yeah.
That's allowed.
That would be dumb shit. I mean,
no.
Have some respect.
It's just young guys talking some shit. I kind of like that.
I think my Kyle hates the cafeteria food was my favorite quote. This one might be second. Furthermore, Kyle Shanahan has long had a very strained relationship with Griffin, sources said, with one staff member saying Shanahan treats Griffin, quote, like a JV quarterback, end quote.
I think one thing that's become clear over time, and now watching Kyle, if you force them to do something they don't want to do, it is not going to go well. And the Shanahan family, and specifically Kyle, I know Kyle better than Mike, just watching personality. The thing I respect most about Kyle is he's the opposite of Brandon Staley. No, there's no fake or fraud. Like he wouldn't be a great politician because, and I can relate a lot to this. He can't be fake. And I can imagine he despised Robert Griffin III and couldn't take him seriously. And it's like, and I think that some of this happened with Flores and Tua. It's like, I can't look at this guy and pretend this guy's a top 10 quarterback and kiss his ass when I fucking think he's terrible. I think some coaches can. Like, I think Brandon Staley probably tells, like, the backup he's, like, going to be this star Pro Bowler. Like, I bet some of the things he tells some of the guys on that team. I think when you get around Kyle Shanahan, you kind of get told what's really going on fast. And I think he treats Debo like that, let alone, Jimmy, and I think Robert Griffin III. Here's the thing. I think the football team thought at the time, like, who is this 33-year-old kid to be, talking shit to our young star quarterback? And again, that aged really poorly because Kyle Shanahan was the star in our RG3. I don't think it can be overstated what a clown RG3 was when he was his time in Washington and what the people around him thought. It's why 2015-16, John, would have on Twitter all season long would have just been talking so much shit on social media about how every time that a football game came on and RG3 was like, part of being an analyst, you just are giving takes, and I was like, I can't believe I am watching RG3 analyze this game. Not because he won a Heisman and was a great player, but his character and what he stood for. Like Greg McElroy, say what you want about him, highly thought of, smart guy, Saban liked him, Rex Ryan Tannenbaum liked him. RG3 was despised by people. Like, they couldn't stand the dude. And now watching him on TV, it's like they're trying to make him like this fun character. And listen, some people mature. I don't know, man. I can't take the guy seriously at all.
Kyle knows ball, but he's just so petty. He picks fights and he holds grudges over small stuff, a source said. He's a mountain out of a molehill guy. He's got entitlement syndrome. And I've never heard it called entitlement syndrome. I've just heard you're entitled. That's why we ended up hiring all of his close friends and buddies, so no one can challenge him. But it makes you worse in the long run because there's no accountability. Ultimately, it's his father's fault for pacifying his son. Well, they're all worse in the long run, I guess.
Think about if you're Matt LaFleur.
What a revisit. I did not expect that many good quotes from that article.
For a long time, Matt LaFleur was just known as a guy that probably shouldn't have had his job, and he was just a Kyle yes man. Now he's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and he's won 39 games in 3 years.
The Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers. Doing better than Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, who Aaron clearly likes more than Mike McCarthy. I would say that Sean McVay. Now, you're right. They were right on him. They for whatever reason, like